Right, good morning. Welcome back for those of you who I have met a couple of years ago. We missed you last year, clearly, for a variety of reasons. But trust me, we have some very good 2 hours that you're going to spend with us. And I'm sure you're doing this road show, so hopefully we'll be able to leave you with a few things that you can actually take away with you. Okay? So I'm Arpit, Joshipura. Head up product management and strategy at Dell Networking, former CMO of Force 10, and been with now Dell for over 2.5 years. I will cover the vision, strategy, some of the updates that we have. We'll get into the three specific segments for today: the in-rack, the fabrics, and the campus, so you get a holistic view of end-to-end solutions from Dell. We will only focus on the new innovation and new technology and things like that. And then off stream, we will have some more roadmap discussions. So that's currently the plan. Fair? Okay, so as we did this 2 years ago, I want to repeat that because I felt that was kind of good feedback we got 2 years ago. And that was, before I start, I wanted to go around the table and get what's on top of your mind for Dell Networking. And I'm going to write that down, and hopefully we will tailor our discussion, not presentation, hear me out carefully, not presentation, discussion, to meet your needs. Fair? Okay, let's shoot. Let's start here, Chris.
Top of mind.
What do you want to hear from us in the next 2 hours?
Cumulus partnership.
Cumulus partnership. Okay? Next.
I'm going to go with the same thing, actually, Cumulus.
Man, this would be a 15-minute meeting. Okay?
Again, Cumulus partnership.
We got that. Anything else beyond that?
Any other open source initiatives you guys have?
Open source, okay.
I got nothing.
Those were actually my two, yeah.
I want to know how you guys are differentiating yourself from the other vendors.
Okay. Okay. So there's a whole L3 section.
That's a good one.
We can cover that.
Which was yours?
Yeah, right.
I want to hear what you're doing with FTOS, and I want to hear the automation story.
Break them out. I want to hear about what you're doing with campus networks.
Good one.
Cutting edge. What are those?
I want to hear what you're doing with Force 10 and the where you're at with the Force 10 acquisition from a while ago, and if you ever plan on positioning that back into the wide area.
Into the wide area. Okay. Anyone think of anything else? How many of you have played with Dell networking switches? I know last time there were quite a few. Right? Recently or recently?
I have one at home.
You have one at home. I like that. Okay, so yes, we will cover all of this. So on top of that, I do plan to cover some of the new innovations we have done so that you get a full view of what our strategy is, because we've not, I talked to a few of you midsummer last year, but we didn't. I think some of you folks are new here as well. All right, one marketing slide promise, and then we move on. Okay, good momentum. That's all I can say. 2013 has been a good year for us. The market generally, and the official numbers are not yet out, but the market generally grew at around 5%. We grew at 14% on the campus side as well as on the data center side. So we feel we are gaining market share globally. From the time we launched our blade switches based on FTOS technology to now, we have jumped up in the market share to number 3, right? According to Deloro and some of the analysts, doing very well in the fixed form factor innovation that we talked about 2 years ago. And in general, I think getting good industry recognition and customer traction. So that's kind of the 45-second marketing pitch. Done? Okay, let's go into the deep details. One of the things, to answer your question, what differentiates us, right? One of the things from a Dell perspective is we look at solutions end to end. Now I know people tell solutions, and they say, okay, it's a solution could be a Hadoop solution or an HPCC solution, right? But think of it all the way from campus networking and devices, wired or wireless, thick or thin clients, VDI included, which is our Vice acquisition, into the campus networking, into the fabrics, into a rack, all of the different kinds of racks, right? Whether it's a blade rack or a standard rack server, a converged rack, or any new type of a rack, to a branch, remote office, branch office, into a cloud, public or private. So we have solutions that I would say are pan-Dell, not just for networking, and networking is an enabler of over 15 solutions till date. And they could be storage plus networking, they could be Hadoop, they could be HPCC, they could be VDI, BYOD, those type of solutions. So I would say that's kind of where we make a difference versus traditional legacy networking only vendors who sell boxes, or networking heavy positioning, right? So the hammer nail thing, right? To a hammer, everything is a nail. What we believe is workloads and applications drive the future of buying patterns, and we want that to dictate networking requirements as opposed to the other way around, right? So we are an enabler to a solution as opposed to the other way around. Very simple, differentiated strategy to our customers, okay? And so the way we think of these things are, we think of in-rack as kind of one buying pattern, solution, pain point for customers, and that includes blade and top of rack. So think about this way. There are traditional networking models where you have the core, aggregation, top of rack, and blade. Four layers, maybe three, maybe even two in a flat network. To us, the server fabric or the in-rack networking ends at the top of rack layer. So top of rack, we look at it as if it's part of our server fabric bundle. And the reason we do that, from a management, from a control, from a traffic patterns, east-west, right? Primarily geared because of the VM to VM traffic, server to server traffic, rack to rack, within a rack type traffic, okay? So that's kind of the first difference. Whether it's FC, storage, non-storage, iSCSI, doesn't matter, right? So we look at it, that's kind of in rack. And we try and innovate around how can we redefine the server, storage, and compute lines, because we all own all three. And you will see some of the specific products that we have created on that. Okay, that's in rack. Then one layer up is fabrics. 2 years ago, we were the first to say, kind of chassis are old, it's kind of mainframe type environments in the data center, and we want to move it to leaf and spine, right? We introduced this Z9000 2.5 years ago as part of Force 10, right? That leaf and spine now, the competitors have got it, right? So I feel good about it, saying, we are seeing people follow. But more importantly, we are innovating on the fabrics to a point where you will see some of the cool automation tools. That was one of your questions. Some of the cool management tools that allow people to stitch fabrics together. And yes, they are leaf and spine, architected for 10 gig, 40 gig scale out type designs. Okay, layer 2 and layer 3, and we'll talk about some of the layer 3 innovations there as well. Okay, and then we just announced a whole set of new campus portfolio. So if those of you who are following this, you would have seen, we just announced it at Dell World, our largest show, in December, and essentially the entire product line has been refreshed on the campus side, and we'll get into the details here because I see that's one of the topic as well. Okay, so that's how we look at it. It's all connected end to end from a solution perspective, and that's how we are sort of going to market. Straight, I mean, that's top high level. Okay, SDN and open networking. I knew this was the hottest topic, so I want to cover it early on. 2 years ago, I created this slide, and I'm sure people who came here 2 years ago remember this slide. It's probably the most popular slide on the web, the triangle slide as we call it, right? Because I believe that the market is fragmented because of vendor push. Vendors, we are taking a spin on SDN, right? We're saying, hey, wrap up whatever I have in a proprietary manner, open up the APIs and call it SDN. And then there's the hypervisor folks that are coming in and saying, yeah, but you know what, don't touch the physical network, it could be an overlay. And let's call that SDN. And then there's the purists who say, if it's not open flow, it's not SDN, right? And we took a very pragmatic, unbiased approach where we support all the three approaches in our software and in our hardware. And that was 2 years ago, right? And at that time, I know the press and media was like, well, Dell's not taking a stance. And I think if you look at some of the recent coverages that, just do a Google on, Dell networking SDN, you will see statements like, this is the most innovative and fantastic strategy they took because it's aimed at customer transformation as opposed to, technology. So I know you guys are very technical, but unfortunately sometimes business wins over technology, right? 1.1, 1.0, 1.3, yeah, whatever. But at the end of the day, what's the customer problem and how can we solve it in a transformational approach? So we took that approach where we will do the standard RESTful APIs and things like that. But the most important things that are happening are on the top side, right? So the two important things I want to highlight that we have done and we're continuing to do is partner with both VMware and Microsoft. They are our, premium partners, if you may, for this part of the world. And what we have done is we have partnered to make sure that the virtual and physical integration come out very strongly. And I have a technical detail slide on how we do that. And for the Linux savvy audience in a specific verticals, we go and open up the Dell networking platform to support any OS. And I'll talk about that as well. And that's our open networking strategy launch. And the first part of it is the partnership with the Cumulus Networks. Okay? And yeah, we support OpenFlow and as Open Daylight and open source and Open Contrail and all these open activities start becoming mature enough, we will have products and productized offerings, that talk about this part of the network. I'm going to pause here. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, so let me just spend 2 minutes on the VMware plus Dell networking solution that is kind of, I would say, different in the following manner, right? Because as we go, we have access to both the server side of the LAN, the virtual admins, the converged admins, and the network admins, right, as part of Dell. And when we go there, the blue are the network admins, and they go, yeah, but how are you going to help me get visibility into the virtual LAN? And the green is the server admins, virtual admins, if you may. And I believe everybody has done this level of, I would say, VXLAN. There's an ecosystem with VMware where VXLAN based integration is either delivered or on the path to be delivered, right? And I think that one's going quite well as an industry. So that's positive news for the industry, I would say. What is unique here is we have worked with the VMware team and exposed the right set of interfaces and commands in the FTOS CLI, right, that allows a network admin to manage, VDSs, right? So virtual switches, things like that. So again, we can give you a detailed demo on what that is, but really what this allows is more collaboration, more visibility management. You can map VLANs to vSwitches. You can do a lot of things. Look at ports, VLANs, monitor things, right, through the vCenter, because clearly VMware vCenter VDS, that's kind of deployed already. Okay. Same thing. As we move forward, Microsoft will go through that. OpenStack. I mean, there are all the various verticals, if you may, that will support that. So my strategy is to make sure that Dell networking at the foundation allows for all the vertical stacks, and we can open up the layers in a horizontal manner. Okay, and when I say horizontal manner, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, because if you look at networking, you got a black box, period. Now, Some go all the way and say it's my own ASICs, my own OS, my own protocols. Well, of course, IETF and others have blessed it to interoperate, and my own tools. From there to a server x86 kind of a model where you can buy silicon from Intel and AMD, you can put OSs, you can put a set of applications that you can run on it, hardware independent, right? And so that's kind of the strategy that we have been pursuing to get merchant silicon. And for those of you who've been following us, we were the first to go down the commercial silicon path, and today most of the vendors have followed that. So I would say that one is a given. Broadcom, Intel, as we go with the standard set of silicon vendors. This part was missing. Most of the SDN discussion was on the top, right, where the control plane and the data plane, what protocol do I talk with? Is it open flow? Is it not open flow? All that stuff. But nobody had really opened up the fact that I just want a switch and I need the ability to manage that switch as if it was a server. Okay, so we have introduced that on two of our flagship products, 4810 and S6000, and what we have done is we allow it to boot, and then you can download, and we will have all the SKUs and all the support for the Cumulus OS loaded, right, with a Dell SKU, if you may, so services, pre-sale support, post-sale support, the value add from Dell of a single point, to choke, right? Versus kind of a classic ODM, and then you have that, and then as customers feel okay with that, they can mix and match. Some parts of the network have FTOS so that they can have the legacy of interoperability. If you need layer 2 designs, you can go back, revert. If you need layer 3, you can go, put layer 3 stack on it. Cumulus supports all of the BGP configurations and things like that. And you can do that, and then whether it's an optional SDN controller or not. So if you look at the videos we did with VMware as well, Martin has done a good job explaining it, right? So VMware plus Cumulus plus Dell, end to end, that stack is also possible here. And then of course the automation tools come in. So the most important thing is now to a Linux admin. It's a Linux API. They can code to that API. They can have all the tools, applications, packages that come with it run on it, and have all the things they do with server also happen on the switch. That's kind of the specifics of what we have done. Again, Cumulus happens to be the first one, and true to Dell open networking, just stay tuned. We'll be announcing more as we go on. From that perspective.
Will ONI be installing and booting FTOS?
Yes.
And is getting ONI onto an older switch going to be a supported vector?
Into a which switch?
So if I have some Dell switching
Do I need
platform,
to repeat the question?
No, they're all mic.
Oh, they're all mic.
Yep.
Perfect.
So if I have some older Dell platform that could run Cumulus, is getting ONI on there going to be a supported activity?
At this point, we have a separate SKU so that we don't want to, mix and match at this point. So they have to have the latest version of FTOS. They have to have the latest version of that SKU in there. We're working on a SKU with our services team that will allow that conversion. But at this point, it's two separate.
Got it. I've heard from Cumulus that getting Cumulus installed onto one of their supported switches, if it's not already there, is maybe a consulting engagement.
Correct. That's what I meant.
An ordeal.
Yeah. It's a services thing. Yeah, that's right. Other questions?
You said something interesting. You said you're going to do end-to-end support as part of the Dell kind of ecosystem for your switches with Cumulus on them.
Yes.
So you can treat it as almost like a Dell device. One of the interesting things, the pricing's come out for Cumulus, is a lot of their revenue models based on their support. So are you doing pass-through costs to them? Are we buying
all the
from
business
them?
proposition has been worked out in the background, right? So from a customer perspective, it's a single call, and whether it's first level support, second level support, who gets paid, all that business terms we have jointly worked out.
Including the initial purchase, we buy
Yes.
a Dell switch with Cumulus OS on it from you.
It comes from Dell.com
Like you
SKU.
could buy a server with either Windows or Red Hat on it.
Right from the website. Yes.
See, the model that we are trying to mimic is the x86 server model, right? It's a very successful model. You buy the hardware from Dell, you can buy Windows or SUSE or Red Hat from us, and if you want, you can call us for support. So that's the model that we are trying to mimic. I think that's where we are headed.
Yeah. And I think if you, I mean, again, you guys are technically the experts. It's not, again, it's not yet for the mass market enterprise, right? You do need a Linux savvy staff, right? And there are verticals who we have targeted first, right? The web techs, the financials, some universities that have expressed interest. And clearly, as we prove this model out, we want to make it as widely successful as Dell was on servers. And remember, Michael Dell did this on PCs, he did it on servers, and I think we're in the best position to do it for networking.
So the support model with Cumulus, Cumulus' position normally is if you buy something that's on their HCL, then they do end-to-end support on it, right? Or at least help you troubleshoot hardware. If you buy a Dell switch on Cumulus,
yeah.
Then are you guys working closely with Cumulus so that you've got the software expertise as well?
Absolutely. So what I meant was on the back end.
Cross-training, is that like
cross-training, cross-calling, cross-setup, cross everything, right? So basically, I don't want the customers to feel that they have to go ping pong, right? They cannot.
Right?
It's not going to happen.
You call the incumbent.
You call the incumbent, and then
they own it, right? So
they own it.
Have to own it all the way.
All the way, and we may pull in tier 2, tier 3. If it's deep, right? Questions and
but
things
from
like
my perspective as a customer, that
you are just single point.
I have to go call them now and then
that's
back
the
to
Dell
you
value.
And finger pointing, right?
No, that's the Dell value, right? And then we do that all the time. So yeah.
Correct answer. Thanks.
Yeah. Other questions on Cumulus? I know it was kind of a hot topic, so I want to pause here before I hand it over to Amit. Makes sense. What are you guys seeing on the from a server, like how many Linux savvy people do you think are there in the networking front? I mean, really, again, hate to say it, but this moves the CCIE expertise to software design expertise. Okay, so people are coding, writing scripts, things like that. It's not just a network engineer anymore.
I think that plays well into the future of what we're all going to be doing in 5 to 10 years, where you're not a networking expert, you're not a systems expert, you have to be more of a generalist, and those teams sort of need to meld together to be able. I mean, and it's being pushed in multiple ways, right? You've got Cumulus doing interesting things, and then you've also got like the question, who manages the vSwitch? Right? Is it the server guys or is it the networking guys, right? It's the hybrid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we need to give tools to allow for that to happen organizationally.
Exactly.
And I think you can see, how we do the VMware thing, two-way, how we do the open switch, how we do this open networking, right? We're moving to that direction. Okay. So I think before I wrap up, I'll probably add one more question on the, there was a question on, Force 10 and what's going on there. So as you see, it's all blended in. It's all Dell networking now. Last year we rebranded everything to Dell networking, and it's the campus, data center, everything included. A lot more investment going on. We have increased the investment, R&D, sales support, and you can see from the results, as I mentioned on the marketing slide, right? In terms of momentum, custom wins, design wins, gaining market share globally, and in all verticals, right? So I think it's now one team with more R&D growth. So that's kind of the high-level summary. Okay. So with that introduction, we'll focus on a couple of specific, I would say, innovations that have happened in the last year, and a little bit more, coming, and what we're seeing from customers, specifically around the in-rack portion. So remember, in-rack is blade networking, top of rack, and all the associated server interconnects, if you may. Right? That's how we define in-rack, and that's our sweet spot, for lack of a better word, from a Dell perspective, right? Going head-on with the server-led motion. And how do you stitch all these servers and VMs together? Networking come in.